The Broncos are going to hold much better value than the Wranglers are going to hold in these next coming years. Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new, welcome to the channel. Today I want to answer a question I get asked all the time about my Bronco. Why did I choose the Bronco? Why did I wait so long for my Bronco? I waited 18 months to take delivery of my vehicle. I could have just bought a Ranger. I could have just bought a Wrangler. I could have just bought a 4Runner. Why did I choose to wait specifically for a Bronco? Well, there's multiple factors that play into this, so I thought I might as well make a video on it because that's the easiest way that I know how to explain it. If you guys are new here, this is my 2022 Ford Bronco. 4-door, Sasquatch, Outer Banks, and it's got a decent amount of options on it, so I had to wait a very long time to get it. We take a step in, we have eruption green on the outside, obviously, and we have the roast black interior, I believe. The leather option is checked, as well as the Lux Pack. But why Bronco? Why did I decide to wait 18 months, over a year, to take delivery of this vehicle? Well, it has to boil down to a couple of different factors. Number one, I always wanted a Bronco. I've always kind of loved the Broncos, and when they made a new one, I was like, oh, I would really want to get one. And then since I wanted to get a Bronco, there's one thing that I do not want to do, and that would be buy the first model year of a vehicle. So I could have put an instant deposit down, but at the time when the Bronco came out, I had no real intention of getting it for a while. But then came 6-7 months later, and I said I won't see it for a little bit, and I think that in about a year and a half or so, I could buy the Bronco, and I think it'd be a good move. So I put one on order slightly after I bought the Mustang, about 5-6 months after I bought that car. I said maybe I'll trade it in. The markets are probably going to be hot at the time still, and especially for the Bronco, so I'd be able to still make money or flip it if I really wanted to, but obviously that's not what I want to do and had no real intention of doing. So I was okay with waiting because a lot of those problems I knew they would kind of get rid of in the first model year, and they did get rid of a ton of problems in the first model year, following over to the second, and now the third, the fourth, and so on. So that's one reason I was kind of okay with waiting. The reason I didn't choose Wrangler was because I'm not that big of a Jeep fan. I've never heard anything good about any Stellantis Mopar product, as well as that a couple of my friends had Wranglers, and a lot of them have switched to Broncos and like the Broncos so much better, so I kind of was like, why get the Wrangler? Because I see so many upsides compared to a Wrangler over a Bronco. Some people prefer the Wrangler, and I totally get why. It's more off-road oriented, but I like the Bronco for what it is compared to the Wrangler. That's why I didn't go Wrangler, but there are plenty of reasons why I didn't go 4Runner, Tacoma, Tundra, whatever the case is, and that's simply because they're not convertibles. The roofs don't come off, the doors don't come off, and that was one of the most appealing things about getting a Wrangler, and one of the reasons that I wanted to get a Wrangler, but then this kind of one-upped it in every single way.
Well, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to hear me, but it is a very open, I guess you could say, and it's actually pretty windy in here as well. But this is a very different experience from what a convertible is, because quite literally everything is open, and not having a door there is a very odd sensation, especially when you're not used to it.
Like, convertibles are fun. Obviously I have two convertibles, but having a convertible SUV is something completely different, especially when the doors are off. As well as that, for the first couple years that I'm gonna have this thing, I'm never really going to see another Bronco on the road, especially around where I live. Very occasionally I'll see a couple of Bronco Sports, I might see some non-Sasquatch Broncos, but like once maybe a month I'll see another Sasquatch Bronco. Going into the future, they're going to be everywhere, and it's going to be fun to see the Bronco community continue to grow and having more Gen 6s on the road. And as you guys can see behind me, I had a Mustang when I did put the Bronco on order, so I'm a little bit biased towards Ford compared to the Stellantis Mopar products, which is why I like this better than the Wranglers. But one of the biggest things was, not a lot of people were going to have them. And I have only seen maybe 1 or 2 eruption green Sasquatch Broncos ever in person. I've maybe only seen 5 to 10 Sasquatch Broncos in my area ever. And because they're so rare, because they're so new, the Broncos are going to hold much better value than the Wranglers are going to hold in these next coming years. 4Runners, Tacomas, again, they don't have the same kind of fun factor. I love the 4Runner, but it's not quite the same. Those hold value kind of the same. This is appreciated. Those don't really appreciate. And this will depreciate in the future, but if I wanted to, in about a year or so, say, alright, time for the Bronco to move on, I could kick it. I don't think I'm going to though. As well as that, the Bronco is just way more fun and it drives so much better than a Wrangler. I've driven Wranglers in the past and I've had a decent amount of seat time in some Wranglers with 35s in them, and they don't handle well at all. I've driven on the highways, I've driven them, you know, on the road, but they don't drive well and perform well on the road. Off-road, I'm sure it's a completely different story with that solid front axle, bigger tires and whatnot, but this has 35s, doesn't have a solid front axle, and still should serve every single off-road purpose that I would need it for. I'm not gonna act like I'm off-road or anything. The main road is right there. There's just a little pull-off and I saw it and I'm like, that'd be a good spot to stop and talk for a second. I'm not gonna take this thing extreme off-roading. This thing probably will go to Moab at some point. This thing probably will see some of those harder trails, but am I going to go on the hardest trails possible? No. Am I going to go on like mediocre trails? Yeah, that's pretty much the extent of what I'm going to take it to. And when and if I do decide I'm going to hit some harder trails, I upgrade the axles and it basically becomes as strong as a solid front axle, given it costs over $2,500. The only other thing, a big ticket item, is going to be the axle. So the Broncos have weak axles because they don't have a solid front. So the way to fix this is to get a $2,500 to $2,800 axle kit, which is insane how expensive that is. But they're really solid, and it fixes any issue that you're going to have off-road. And another thing I want to add is I've always loved like this size of vehicle, the shape of vehicle. My dad used to have an FJ Cruiser and this reminded me a lot of that when I first saw it. The only gripe and complaint that he had, and I also had, where the doors don't come off and the roof doesn't come off, otherwise that thing would have killed, and it was about 5 to 6 years too early. The Bronco has had a ton of support, and when I saw all of that support and I saw that people were loving their Broncos, and there was a little bit of criticism toward them, as there will be with any new vehicle, in terms of, oh, it's going to break, it's not going to last, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. All that stuff that you see scaring you is strictly there just to get views. You say the Bronco's going to break, it's going to get views. You see a Bronco exploding and there's a video on it, it's going to get views. But when you actually watch people who own them and people who have actually experienced them, pretty much anyone and everyone says how awesome these things are, other than the very select few that had some issues with them because they bought the earlier model years. That's all I have for this video though. I know it's kind of short, kind of sweet, but I just wanted to get straight to the point because I always get asked, why did you choose Bronco? Why did you not go with all the other options? And why wait? And the answer is just simply all of those things combined. I think it's just an amazing vehicle, and I was more than happy to wait for it, and I'm so happy that I did wait for it and didn't decide to go with something else. That's all I have for this video. If you guys are interested in a 6-month review, check it out. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one.